What is up? It is the Fit Gear Hunter, and today we are going to talk about the Suunto Race S heart rate accuracy. I am currently at the beach, my sunrise time. You can see the sunrise in the back there. But the Suunto Race S is an incredibly feature-packed, affordable, beautiful watch. And the Suunto Race Original was all of those things as well, at the price point it came in at $450 or $550, depending on titanium version you get. And the Suunto Race S at $350 has all the same features, just a little bit smaller, and even adds some things and has a new heart rate sensor. So a number of reviewers have found it to be more accurate than the original Race, which was a terribly inaccurate heart rate sensor. And of the reviewers, some found it to be really reliable for even intense interval running, but not reliable for cycling. And another reviewer found it to be relatively unreliable in general, but slightly better. So I test devices and track devices for the purpose of CrossFit and CrossFit training or high intensity interval training or whatever you want to call it, but a lot of things using wrist flex. And so we're going to put it to the test across a series of workouts. And the way that I typically do things is, if a watch continues to hold up somewhat well, like to get the majority of the workout right, then I continue to test it and get high level, like multiple of tests to do more in-depth comparison charts. And if a watch does not do well in a series of workouts, then I just stop the test because it's not worth it, because it just takes away from my ability to test the accuracy of the other training elements of the watch. So with that, let's dive in.
All right, so here we see heart rate graph number 1. This is actually just assault bike intervals where I was just ramping up for like the first 15 seconds of every minute on the minute intervals, and it was way off down at the bottom in blue as the chest strap is in purple. Here, this was actually reasonably correlated. This was not terrible. This was the one out of the 4 workouts. But then we had just a lot of this where it missed the higher peak. Obviously, this was a much longer workout, but it missed the most intense portions, which is not going to help you with your training load evaluation. And then here, it just missed the really heavy, high volume back squats in the beginning, and then the intense work. It did stay up in the beginning part with just like a low level cardio at 120 beats per minute, but it missed the high intensity stuff, which is where the cardiovascular strain is, which is what's going to evaluate training load. And then if you put it all together, just after these 4 workouts, it had a correlation of 0.75, which it just isn't great. It's not worth continuing on because it's going to affect the evaluation of your training intensity over time, because it's just missing the peak values. So just not worth it. It really just needs to connect to a chest strap, even though there are some times when it could keep up at some level. And 0.75 is just not good enough to really get actual evaluation, which is what you would have all the other metrics for. And it's very much like the original. The original was much worse. You had a lot of the original. This was the Suunto Vertical and the Suunto Race full size. You had a lot of these types of things. This was probably the worst of all the ones. And then collective correlation value between a chest strap and the Vertical or the Race of 0.70. So just a lot more misses than, well, I should go just towards the end, than a 0.75. So I would say this is better, but neither one, the original Vertical or the original Race Suunto watches or the Race S, are really worthwhile if you're going to do higher intensity or CrossFit type workouts. You should wear a chest strap, full stop.
And so what do we see? We see that the watch is slightly more accurate than the original Race, which is also the same heart rate sensor on the Suunto Vertical, but not accurate at all for what you would need it for. So if it's missing the high peaks, the most essential elements of cardiovascular strain that would also assess if you are pushing your body too hard, or it would flow through to the recovery time recommendations, it would flow through to the training load or the epoch from that particular workout, which would affect your training load calculations over time. We can see that you can't rely on it for higher intensity interval training, anything that might flex your wrist at all, which includes cycling. So that just simply boils down. Now, I am a believer in this applies to all the workouts, that you really should just wear a external heart rate sensor, because if you're doing CrossFit or high intensity interval training, you don't really want to watch on when you're doing all these things, especially in CrossFit where you have wrist wraps and things like that. So to me, it's a non-issue to a degree, and it's still, the Suunto Race S is still highly worthwhile at the price point and the feature pack things. I'm still like really loving it. But in simple terms, the new heart rate sensor does not make it more capable of skipping or avoiding using an external heart rate sensor to be able to get accurate results and analysis for the workouts that you do. So with that, it's the Fit Gear Hunter. Thanks so much for watching.